This is the first and I hope the last time I am making a review just to tell you not to buy something. This here is the 75 to 300mm lens, considered as one of the worst lenses Canon has ever produced. If you know even worse one, please tell me, I would like to try it. Don't be seduced by its low price, no matter how cheap it is best avoided. My recommendation is to get the excellent 55 to 250mm STM lens if you have a APS-C camera. There is a link to my review in description below this video. Full-frame users on the budget will be far happier with the Tamron 70 to 300mm VC as a good and affordable telephoto. If this is all you want to know, you can stop watching this video right now. But if you want to see what makes this lens so bad and how it is possible to actually get good images from it, keep watching. First you need to understand that this lens has its roots somewhere in the 1990s. At that time this was a cheap telephoto for film camera, and film is quite forgiving on lens performance compared to modern high-resolution digital cameras. I guess Canon somewhere has a huge warehouse full packed with these lenses and needs to get rid of them. People often buy it in two-lens bundle with entry-level models like Rebel T5 and T6 that are 1200 and 1300D for the rest of the world. These are affordable sets and novice photographers easily fall into this trap. Build quality is average, body of the lens is made from cheap looking plastic, but at least it has metal lens mount. It isn't stabilized, and that's a bummer for a telephoto lens. Zoom ring takes a slight force to start moving it. If you try zooming slowly, it will stick and move in small steps. If you make a sudden change from wide to telephoto, it will glide without issues. Manual focus ring is quite solid and rotates smoothly, but as you can see, front element rotates when focusing, which makes using circular polarizer quite tedious process. It uses 58mm filters, which is standard and easy to find diameter. I don't like autofocus switch, which appears very flimsy, and the fact there is no manual focus override. When in autofocus mode, focus ring cannot be rotated. This lens is not weather sealed and lens hood is not part of the retail package. It weighs around 500 grams. Autofocus motor is loud and slow. There is a bit more expensive USM version of this lens with a bit more quiet motor, but besides that it has identical bad optics, so I don't recommend that one either. Overall autofocus speed is on the slow side and has issues with accuracy on my 80D. It works better on 6D. At 75mm lens delivers solid resolution, but the more you zoom the worse it gets. By 300mm both resolution and contrast are well below acceptable. On high resolution crop sensor things are worse. I won't even show you the corners, there's nothing to see there. Basically on all focal lens you should stop it down at least one stop or more to get half sharp results. 300mm is downright bad. This wasn't acceptable 10 years ago, let alone in 2017. I don't think this lens is of much use over 200mm. At 75mm, slight focus shift is visible, but not to the extent it would matter in real world. At 300mm, a different story. Sharpest focus plane is moved away from the camera and comes back only at around f22. Focus breathing is very pronounced, but that was expected from 1990s budget photography lens. To my utmost surprise, it turned out this lens is parfocal. Who would have expected this? Lateral chromatic aberrations are strong and visible throughout the zoom range. Longitudinal aberrations are a disaster. Actually, 75mm is acceptable, but everything else is really bad. Look at this mess. If you need LGBT flag for Gay Pride Parade, you can just print these samples, no one will notice the difference. At 75mm all looks good, but the more you zoom, the more pincushion will be seen. By 300mm it is quite strong. On full frame this lens creates strong vignetting. At 75mm you will need to close it to 5.6, after that f8 will be needed, and at 300mm f11 is the best choice. Results are surprisingly good on crop sensor, where vignetting is actually not an issue. Flare control is average, I've seen much worse. Various ghosts can appear, but if used with optional lens hood, good deal of it can be avoided. Bokeh is solid if you leave enough space between subject and background, otherwise it can get ugly with branches or anything with sharp edges close to the subject. With 1.5 meters closest focus and 0.25 times magnification, this is not a good macro lens. At 300mm you can clearly see it doesn't have enough resolution already at a full frame 6D. Once mounted on 24 megapixel crop sensor 80D, 75mm looks surprisingly good, but at 300mm it is a disaster. Starburst is hard to produce and not particularly pretty. Under special conditions it can look half decent. Yes, I did say that. In everyday use this lens performs a bit better than what this review might indicate, but you will need to post-process heavily, resize images and shoot at the subjects which are not particularly detailed. When stopped down to get better sharpness, avoid vignetting, and after removing those infernal chromatic aberrations in Photoshop, I got some fairly nice images. 75 to 300mm will also require using a tripod or high shutter speeds to avoid handshake since it isn't stabilized. And for the end you can forget about tracking animals or shooting sport with this lens. You must understand all that is wrong with this lens and know how to avoid bad settings or fix images later. The problem is that it will be bought mostly by novices who will use camera in full auto mode and use JPEG straight from the camera, which will look terrible. Even worse, it seems no Canon camera so far supports automatic corrections. So in conclusion, 75 to 300mm lens is the one to avoid at all cost. In order to get good quality out of it, you need to be advanced user. But if you are advanced user, you will never even consider this lens, so what's the point? Basically, there is not a single reason to recommend this lens under any circumstance. As I said at the beginning of this video, if you use crop sensor, your best choice is 55 to 200mm STM, which I reviewed already, you can find the link in video description. If you have a full frame camera and need telephoto just for occasional use, best choice would be Tamron 70 to 300mm with image stabilization, which is a splendid lens for the money. And with this I conclude today's review. Now it's your turn to do something for me. Subscribe to my channel, become my supporter on Patreon, and if buying stuff from Amazon, please use my affiliate links in the description of this video. I will get a small percentage from every purchase, but you will not pay more than usual. This is the best way to support my channel if you like it. Thanks for watching.